Yeah, hi everybody. My name's Tony. In my day job, I run a care company called Home Instead. I'm also a volunteer with the Alzheimer's Society, and I'm a dementia champion. So I go out and give talks on dementia. So today, I've very loosely structured today's presentation on Dementia Friends, and everybody hopefully has got a bingo card. Have you all got one of those little cards? Yeah. Brilliant. No? Okay. Right, okay. So what we'll do is we'll just hand out, Susie, gentleman, yeah, oh you haven't got, yeah, sorry, that card, yeah, the bingo card. I better go on it, yeah.
Are we going to be winning something?
We are going to be winning something today, yeah, so here we go. Yeah, so what we'll be doing is, I'll just give you some facts and figures first, but then afterwards we're going to be running through this dementia bingo. So what I will be doing is I'll be reading out 12 statements, and what we have to do, or what you have to do, is circle the right, what you believe to be the correct answer, okay? So we'll come to that in a minute. So I'll just give you some background on myself. The reason I became a dementia champion is because I run a care organisation. A lot of the people I look after have got dementia. And I noticed that a lot of friends and families and relatives were coming to me and say, you know what, I love my mum and dad, but with their dementia, I'm getting really frustrated and angry and resentful because their behaviour is so awkward and their language can be so abusive, and I'm getting really, really fed up with it. And it suddenly occurred to me that I had to explain, well, mum and dad don't mean to be like this. This is just what dementia does, right? That's just the way it is. But the problem is that, you know, we always say forewarned is forearmed. So if you know what's coming, then you can prepare for it. Quite often what is happening is people are being told they've got dementia, but they're not told what changes may occur, and nor are their friends and their families. So when these changes occur, it comes as quite a shock. So the example I always give is, you know, if one day mum walks in and she's got her knickers on her head, you might think, oh my God. And you know, it's going to be a very emotional response, like, take those, what the hell are you doing? Take those knickers off your head, right? And that isn't necessarily very helpful. But if the doctor or the health professional had warned you and said one day, because mum's got dementia, she may mistake her knickers for a hat, and when she does do that, what you need to do is say, Mum, that is a lovely hat, but how about we try this one? This is an even better one, and I'll swap you. Right? And then that's a nice exchange, it's nice and positive, and everyone goes away happy because you know what to do. Okay, so as I say, the problem is people are not told what to expect. And so when things change, it comes as a bit of a shock and people go, oh my God, you know, the sky's falling down. So hopefully, you know, today I'll give you some tools and techniques that will help you or people living with dementia. So some facts and figures about it. You know, at the moment, there's 850,000 people in the UK living with dementia, and that is expected to increase to about 1 million by 2025. So, you know, we've got an ageing population. You know, dementia is just, it is on the increase. And we know at the moment that there are 45,000 people under the age of 55 with dementia. So it's not just for old people who get it. This is a fact from the Alzheimer's. Apparently 2/3 of people who get it are women. Don't know why. Obviously research is going into that. 1/3 of people over 90 will have dementia. And the cost of the UK economy is currently £17 billion a year. So it is a big problem. So the government is investing a lot of time and resources to try and educate people, make people aware of dementia and how we can live with it and help people in the community with it. And at the moment, there's 66% of people, fortunately, with dementia are living in the community. They're not sort of shipped off into nursing homes. And that's fine because, you know, people with dementia can live completely normally, so long as people like you and me know how to help them, okay? So what we're going to do is, we've got the bingo cards. I am now going to read 12 statements, and what I want you to do is circle what you believe to be the right answer. So I'm going to miss out the word, so you get the hang of it. We'll do the first one together. So, the first question is, dementia is not a natural part of what? Shout out the answer if you think you know what it is. Aging. Excellent. Brilliant, that lady. We're off to the races. So everybody circle aging, not races. Everyone circle aging. All right, so everyone's got aging circled. Right, now it's eyes down, and it's the first one to get full house. So there's 11 more statements. Okay, so don't shout at the answers. Just circle the answer if you think you know it. So number 2. Dementia is caused by what of the brain? Dementia is caused by what of the brain? Circle the answer if you think you know it. That's number 2. Number 3. One common type of dementia is which disease? One common type of dementia is which disease? Circle the answer if you know it. And in fact, that shouldn't be too bad because I think there's only one type of dementia on your cards. Right, number 4. Dementia is what? Which means the symptoms will gradually get worse. Dementia is what? Which means the symptoms will gradually get worse. That's number 4. Number 5. Alzheimer's disease usually starts by affecting people's what? Alzheimer's disease usually starts by affecting people's what? That is number 5. Number 6. Dementia is not just about losing what? Actually, I've given it to you there. Anyway, I read too much of the question out, but I think everyone's probably got that. So dementia is not just about what? And it begins with losing, so that's a little clue. Number 7. Dementia can also affect people's what? Dementia can also affect people's what? That's number 7. Number 8. People with dementia can still do what effectively? People with dementia can still do what effectively? People with dementia can still do what effectively? That's number 8. Number 9. At any one time, 1 in how many people over 65 has dementia? At any one time, 1 in how many people over 65 has dementia? That should be quite an easy one because I think there is only one number on your bingo sheet. So hopefully everyone will get that one. Number 10. It is possible to do what with dementia? It is possible to do what with dementia? Is number 10. Number 11. There is blank to the person than the dementia. So what's the missing word? There is what to the person than the dementia? Number 11. There is what to the person than the dementia? And finally, number 12. Well, actually, I won't do it. I'll read it out, but I haven't briefed you on this, so you won't know it, so it'll be guess. Dementia Friends, and this isn't a Dementia Friends session, but Dementia Friends is about turning understanding into what? Dementia Friends is about turning understanding into what? You'll know it should you next time do a Dementia Friends session. So, has anyone got full house? Yep. Oh, good. Right. Anybody else? Right, so we've got 2, 3. Right, okay, fine. Okay. 4. The answer goes, you should all have full house because I've read 12 questions, so hopefully you've all got 12 things circled, but never mind. That's a funny old game, eh? Right. Okay, so let's just go through the answers, right? So number 1 we did together, dementia is not a natural part of what? And we said aging. Yeah, and the reason is that people think it's only old people who get dementia. I think I mentioned to you before, we know there's 45,000 people in the UK under the age of 55 with dementia. So it isn't only old people, okay? People say to me, is it hereditary? Can I get it when I'm young? Well, there is one type of dementia that is hereditary, and it's called familial. but a very, very small percentage of people get that. Most people do not inherit it, you don't catch it. It's just there are risk factors. No one's quite sure what causes dementia. And obviously, there's a lot of research going into at the moment. But being old doesn't mean to say you're going to get it. I have clients who are 101 and 102, and their memories are far better than mine. Their memories are as clear as bells. Okay, so don't think because you're old you're going to get it. This doesn't follow. Number 2, dementia is caused by what of the brain? What did we get? Diseases, yes. And it is a disease. People often say to me, oh, it's a mental illness. Dementia is not a mental illness, right? It is a disease. If we look at all our brains are about so big, they weigh 2 pounds. If you look at the brain of somebody with dementia, the brain is half the size and half the weight. The brain physically shrinks and dies. What basically happens is the brain gets covered in a thing called a protein, and the protein attacks the brain and kills it, okay? So, which is why I always say to people, there is no point in arguing with people with dementia, because the bit that does all the reasoning that was there is no longer there, right? They haven't got that skill anymore, because that part of the brain that did the argument or the logic, and people say, come on, you understand. No, they don't, because the section of the brain that used to do all the calculations and working out is no longer there. So there is absolutely no point in shouting at people with dementia. They will not get it. All that will happen is you'll get upset and so will they. Okay? And one of my clients said to me, you know what dementia's like? He said, imagine a Christmas tree with lots and lots of fairy lights. And each fairy light is a memory, a skill, or a function. And he said, every day I know more and more of my lights are going to go out, but I don't know which ones, and I don't know in which order, but I do know that eventually all the lights will go out and there'll only be one left, and that's the one that keeps my heart going. So you can imagine it is quite a frightening process, because you're seeing your skills disappear. And it is worrying. And of course, we'd all be worried if, today you're this good and over 6 months you've declined, right? And you can see it happening, which is why a lot of people with dementia are frustrated and they are frightened. We'd all be frightened if we saw our skills and acuity going away, and it can lead to depression. And a high percentage of people with dementia have got depression, okay? And you can understand why, right? Because it can be quite a slow process, and if you can see you're going downhill, you ain't going to be happy about it, okay? So, but as I say, with a bit of education, things can be okay and can be quite manageable. So number 3, one common type of dementia is which disease? Alzheimer's. And Alzheimer's is the most common type of disease, or dementia I should say. 50 to 60% of people who get dementia will get Alzheimer's. And the signs of that are obviously memory loss. But there are other types. You may hear of vascular dementia. Okay, vascular dementia is actually that's down to a circulatory problem. It's not a problem necessarily with the proteins in the brain, and it's caused by a series of mini strokes, right? There's a blood flow problem, the brain is starved of oxygen, you have an episode. Now the thing is, you will not know, and nor will the person with vascular dementia, they will not know they're having an attack, a mini stroke, they'll just carry on. But what you will notice is that they will lose some functionality. And maybe you can see me, you come and see me today and I can make a cup of tea. You come back tomorrow and I can't. What's happened? The section of my brain that controls making a cup of tea didn't get any oxygen, it has gone. That functionality is not coming back, right? So people can get quite, oh, come on, you could do it yesterday, come on, you must be able to do it today. No, with vascular, it's a very stepped decline, and you can have a stroke or a mini stroke or an attack, and then nothing for days, weeks, months, years, whatever it's going to be, okay? But it is a very stepped decline, whereas with Alzheimer's disease, you tend to find it is quite a linear, it's a gentle decline. But the thing to notice is that dementia is different for everybody. Some people can get a diagnosis and go downhill very quickly. Other people get a diagnosis and hardly change from the day of their diagnosis to the day they die, right? We don't know. Nobody knows how fast it's going to progress or how we're going to be affected. It is different for everybody. Right, so as I say, we've got vascular dementia. You may hear frontal temporal. all our personalities at the front of our brains here. People who have this type of dementia can undergo personality changes. And I have a client, and she was a lovely lady, and I went to see her, and she said, come on, Tony, let's go and have a nice cup of tea. As we were walking to the kitchen, she got a walking stick and went to whack me over the head with it. And I thought, oh my God, and I jumped back. And she went, what are you doing standing over there? I said, you just tried to hit me on the head, Betty. She said, no, I did not. And that's how quickly she can change, right? So she went from this lovely old lady to, I'm going to kill you. So, but it can go both ways. I gave this talk, and the lady said to me, well, my mother got frontal temporal dementia, and she turned into the mother I always wanted. And I said, what do you mean? She said, until that point, my mother had been a complete and utter bitch all my life. She got dementia, and she was wonderful, right? So it can go both ways, but just be aware, frontal temporal affects people's behaviors. The last type, or common type, is one called Lewy body. And you may have heard of Lewy body dementias. Now with Lewy body, it's not so common, but people with this type of dementia can have visual hallucinations. Okay, so they can see things, but they can also have auditory hallucinations, so they may be able to hear things, right? And they can also suffer from delusions. So they might have delusions are irrational beliefs. So, which probably explains why people sometimes think people with dementia are mad, because if I'm standing here saying I can see angels and hear harps and I can see God, you're going to think Tony's lost his mind, right? Okay, but I can actually hear those things. But that is a function of the disease, okay? So, you can't have to, with people, you have to accept people's reality with dementia. You can't change it. As I said, the brain, when it's functioning, is so big. When they get dementia, all the mental acuity goes, all the rationale goes, and you can't change their perception. So you need to change yours. So I say Alzheimer's is the most prevalent type. Then we get vascular dementia. Then we get frontal temporal, which affects behaviours, and then Lewy body. People say to me, any cure? Well, there are lots of medications. There are medications for Alzheimer's disease, and more coming on the market. At the moment, there isn't any cure for vascular dementia, right? And it's quite sad, and it can be quite abrupt. I had a client who got diagnosed with vascular, went to the GP, and the GP went, nothing I could do, sorry, no medication, which is not great. So, you know, but there are people out there like the Alzheimer's Society, you know, who can give you advice and signpost you to people who can help. Because it may not be medication, but there are definitely talking therapies that can help. I was just having a quick look, right. Moving on, number 4 is dementia is what? Which means the symptoms will gradually get worse. Progressive. And that's very important, because quite often people think, right, mum's got a diagnosis, that's it, that's how she's going to be for the rest of her life. Well, wrong, because that's how she is today, but things are changing. You can't see it, but you need to keep an eye on people, right? We had a client, and she's a lovely lady, and our care used to go with her and just sit, and they'd have a bit of a natter. That's what she was there, and the lady was very able-bodied. She'd get up. Her daughter made some frozen food, which she'd get out of the freezer, heat it up, and then put it in. Sorry, it wasn't frozen, but she'd put it in the oven, and she had a gas oven, and she used to warm it up and have a natter with a carer. Great. One Thursday, the carer went in, and the lady, as normal, went to the fridge, got her food, put it in the oven, turned the oven on, heated up, sat down, had a nice meal. She said she came back 24 hours later. She walked into the door. The place reeked of gas. And the lady was there with a box of matches and about to strike a match. What had happened was the lady had got the food out of the fridge as normal, gone to the gas cooker, put it in, turned it on. She had an old-fashioned cooker with one that carries on when you turn it on. It hadn't lit. So she left it with the gas coming out, went upstairs, rummaged around for a few minutes, came back with a box of matches, by which time the whole place was full of gas. And luckily, the caregiver came in at the right time and managed to run in, stopped her lighting the matches, and had to open all the windows. And then we had to ring the family and say, that's it, you've got to turn the gas off, because mum is not safe with gas. And they went, oh my God, it's time for the nursing home. I said, no, it's not. I said, mum can't use a gas cooker, but she can use a microwave. So all you need to do is turn the gas cooker off, give her a microwave. She's competent, you know, she's safe. Because you want to keep people living in their own homes, in familiar environments as long as possible. So the point of being progressive, on Thursday she was fine, on Friday she wasn't. Things are changing. So you've got to keep an eye on people. Yeah, and we need to keep making sure that the environment they live in is safe and changing and adapting that environment to keep them safe, because things will change. So just be mindful of that, okay? Number 5 was Alzheimer's disease usually starts by affecting what? Short-term memory, and that's quite important because there are a number of reasons why people's short-term memory can be effective. One, especially with older people, quite often older people are dehydrated. They don't drink enough water because they think if I drink too much water, I need to go to the loo. And what's going to happen? I might wet myself because I won't get there in time, or I'm going to get there and I'm going to fall over. I'm going to have a fall. So guess what? Much easier not to drink any water and be fine. Great, it works, but you're dehydrated, and especially if you're taking more than one medication, you can have medication conflict. That medication conflict can cause memory loss depending on the medication because you're dehydrated, right? So that is one reason why somebody might have a memory loss, because of the medication. Number 2, people who drink heavily, right? I mean alcohol, they can have memory loss. Now that memory loss is reversible, but it has the same symptoms as dementia, right? And what's actually causing that is a B12 deficiency. Now those two things can be reversed. I mean, if you notice someone's got memory loss, then you should go and see the doctor. I mean, I have memory loss. I quite often go into Sainsbury's and I come out and think, oh my God, where have I parked the car? That's quite normal. What wouldn't be normal is if I came out and said, oh my God, what sort of car did I drive here in? That's a problem, right? So we have to, if you notice anyone has got memory loss, go to the doctor. He will do a number of tests, he'll check your medication, check you're not drinking too much, and if you are, give you some B12 supplements. And another reason, the third reason that people can have memory loss is stress, right? Especially stress caused by loss or bereavement. And I myself, before I did this job, because I used to work in the city before I ran this company, had a really stressful job. And one day I went into a meeting with a number of people, only about 6 people, and I looked at them all and thought, oh my God, I can't remember any of their names. And I worked with them for a whole year. And then I thought, oh God, I better get on with the briefing. And I started briefing them on the project and thought, I can't remember the project. So I got my book and I started reading really quickly. I thought, if I read this, it'll jog my memory. But the problem was, by the time I got to the bottom, I'd forgotten literally what I read 2 seconds earlier. And I winged it, I bluffed it, walked out, thought, oh my God, I'm losing, I'm going mad, you know. And like most people, I kept that to myself. Because imagine this, we're all here in this room today. If I asked you your name and you couldn't remember, how would you feel? Shocked, ashamed, yeah? Scared? And if I said, right, we're going to come back tomorrow with the same number of people and I'm going to ask your name in front of them, would you come back? No, exactly. Nobody would come back because nobody wants to look stupid in front of other people, right? And the problem that creates is that people start to socially withdraw because they don't want to look bad in front of people. And if you start doing that, you then become socially isolated. Then you're in a spiral, because once you're socially isolated, then you get depressed. And it's a downward spiral, okay? So if you notice, I say, the memory loss, what you must do is go to the doctor, because the doctor will either review your medication, tell you not to drink so much, and if you are depressed or whatever else, there are therapies, they're talking therapies as medication. But the important thing is you must go, because don't do what I did and try and hide it, because people with dementia are superb at hiding their dementia. They develop strategies which will throw you off the scent, and it can take years. And we have clients who will write lots of notes and they'll hide them around the house, put the cat out, turn the lights off. You won't know where they are, but they do. And then, typically you ask them a question they don't know the answer to, they'll make light of it. Who's the Prime Minister? Who cares? They're all a bunch of crooks. Ha, ha, ha. Deflected. And that is how people with dementia will hide it from you. And I'd say it can be years, because they know their memory's going. But like me, I ain't going to tell you. And so there will be warning signs. So if any doubt, just send them for a check. Right, so that's short-term memory. Number 6, Dementia is not just about what? It's the same answer, actually. It's actually losing your memory. There's two. Yeah. Now, dementia is not about, but if you think about this, you know, dementia affects the brain. What does the brain control? Everything. Yeah. So people often think, well, it's dementia, it's going to be in my memory, but it's not. It's anything. It could be your balance for you. It could be your balance for you. It could be your sight. For you, it could be touch. You know, for you, it might affect your walking. It affects all of us differently. But because it affects the brain, there's a range of things. Okay. So it isn't just about memory, says me. So things typically that you'll notice, the communication skills, like I was just then, people struggling to find the name for things, you know, that dog, cat, getting the names mixed up. It could be motor skills. You know, something as simple as not being able to use a knife and fork anymore, or struggling to get the key in the lock, okay? It could be sequencing, so it could be they're putting the clothes on, odd clothes on, odd socks on, shoes on, the wrong feet, wrong colour shoes, getting odd combinations, okay? It could be changes in inhibition, and this means sexual inhibition. And running a care company, that can be quite an issue because most of some male clients, you know, to give you an example, we had a chap who was bedbound, 94, and the female carer used to come in, and he'd always say, throw back the sheets, say, come on, love, jump in, let's have a bit of fun. And she'd say, what the hell are we talking about? You're 94, you can't even walk. What sort of fun are we going to have? You know? So, and that's the kind of thing, you know. It isn't that they're dirty old man. That is what the disease does, okay? Vision. People with dementia are also prone to falling because it affects people's vision. So they cannot get sense of depth of field. So be aware. If someone's got dementia, they are more likely to fall, although potentially. Number 7. Dementia can also affect people's what? Perception. It's perception. And again, as I said about falling, things like black mats. Now you think about most supermarkets. You go to the front, there's a big black mat, right? Now a black mat to someone with dementia can look like a hole, a big hole. So imagine you've taken me shopping, we've gone to Sainsbury's, we get to the front door, there's a black mat. What am I likely to do when we get... I'll probably stop, right? Yeah. And if I stop and you don't know what I'm thinking, what might you do? Yeah, pull me. Guess what? We're going to have a fight. Especially if I've got frontal temple and I've got an angry temper and you start pulling me around, right? So, yes. So always for people with dementia, if they're unhappy, change the subject. So, you know, if you took someone walking and they stopped for whatever reason, all you have to say is, okay, we'll come back another time. Or let's go a different way. Don't try and force them, because imagine if there's a real hole and I try to force you across a real hole, you're going to whack me one, aren't you? So that's what we're going through. So always change the subject with them. You may be able to bring me back in a few minutes' time and I'll be fine. Okay. Another thing to notice, especially under these kind of lights, fortunately these tiles aren't too shiny, but shiny floors can cause a problem to people with dementia because it can look like water. So again, imagine you've taken me, because supermarkets have those bright lights, they have tile floors. If you've taken me walking or shopping into Sainsbury's, and I suddenly think there's water in the room, or if I said to you, right, you know, in 3 seconds' time, the floor's going to turn to water, right? If you're still in the room, you're going to drown. You've got 2 seconds. Quick, what are you going to do? You're going to run. And that's what somebody with dementia is going to do. They ain't going to hang around saying, you know, this is my thought process, and they're out the door, right? And again, if you do not know what I'm thinking, what might you do as I head off to that door? You're going to pull me back. And again, we're going to have some conflict, right? And imagine if you do pull me back in the supermarket and I'm put for having a fight with you, what do you think all these people are going to think of you? Yeah. And they might think you're abusing me, and you know, and the pressure levels the stress levels go through the roof. Okay, so just be aware of that. As I say, bright lights, black mats. In fact, some of our clients, because you're not allowed to lock people in with dementia, it's against the law. And people say, well, mum and dad go wandering at night. Can you lock the door? No, we can't. Against the law. Because what happens if there's a fire? Fire brigade can't get in, they can't get out. Doesn't end well. So well, what you can do is you can put a black mat in front of the door. So when they get there, oh dear, they want to cross that. go and sit down on the sofa. And another technique is some of our clients use is they put a mirror on the front door. Because quite often people with dementia don't know what they look like. They've forgotten how they look. So of course when they come up to that door and they see that, oh, who's that person? Don't know, better go and sit down. And that's how you keep them in. So, just a little technique. Yeah, so it can affect people's perception. There was one other thing. And also just bear in mind, very patterned things can cause problems. We had a lady and she had one of those Axminster carpets, one of those swirly carpets. And I walked in to visit her and she went, Tony, can you move that snake in the corner? I'm sitting there going, snake, what the hell is she talking about? But it was the pattern, it confused her. And fortunately the carer knew what that was going on. She got up and she went, you know what? Come on, snake, get out. Come on. She opened the door, she said, get out, slammed the door, sat down. They carried on. Brilliant. I thought, fantastic. Because what the carer did, she validated the lady's feelings. She didn't laugh at her and say, what the hell's wrong with you? She said, you know what? I see you have a problem. I'm going to help you. I'm not going to laugh at you and get rid of it. And they carried on and had a lovely exchange. 10 minutes later, the daughter came in and the same thing. She went, Sil, can you move that snake? This time, the daughter didn't play the game. She went, what are you talking about? You know there's no snake. How many times have we had da, 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 da. And then the two women were arguing, both started crying, and the daughter said, that's it, I'm off, can't stand this, walked out, slammed the door. Now, had she done what the carer had done and just accepted the situation, she would have had a nice afternoon with her mum. Instead, she tried to change her mum's reality, ain't going to happen, big argument, relationship damaged. Yeah? One of my friends here, he rang me up and he said, you know what, my father-in-law's moved in. And he said, the place is chaos. He said, he's got dementia and he's got all of us arguing. He said, he's a right cantankerous old bastard. And now the whole household is up in arms. And I said, you can't change it, he's got dementia, right? You're going to have to change and accept his reality. And he rang me back 3 days later. He said, you know what, best bit of advice you ever gave me. He said, he's still a cantankerous old bastard, but I don't argue with him anymore, and now it's fine. Yeah? And that's the way we do it. We go with them, okay? Don't try and change their reality. Right, so, and one of the things about, and one thing I did miss about losing your memory, on skills, the ability to use hands and fingers and all the rest. We have quite often people with dementia, they lose the ability to use knives and forks, right? And I've seen it so many times, the families say, come on, you know how to use a knife and fork. And they can say, they can insist, and I say, look, there's no point, they can't, right? Now, people with dementia have low self-esteem and low self-worth, right? They know things aren't right. Don't give them a task that they're going to fail at. Because all you're going to do is going to reinforce that sense of negativity, the sense that they're worthless. What you need to do is give them tasks that they are going to succeed at and have a positive outcome from. So if they are struggling with using a knife and fork, that's fine. You say, no more knife and fork, I'm going to chop the food up, it's finger food, help yourself, right? Because then you're giving them back control, you're giving them back dignity, yeah? And they can now think, you know, okay, I can do this. I'm not useless, okay? So it's a small thing. Quite often I say to people, you'll notice people with dementia, quite often they always say no. Do you want something to eat? No. Thirsty? No. Now, what it actually means is that because the brain is damaged, they may not necessarily know what you're asking them. And it goes back to looking stupid. If I don't know what you're asking me, I don't want to look stupid in front of you. You've asked me a question, don't know what it means, no, right? And that's going to be my standard response. Now that can cause a real problem, especially when it comes to hydration and food, because people just keep saying no and they're starving. So I always say, and our carers are all trained that if the client says, you know they haven't eaten, and you say, do you want to eat? And they say no, just make the food and put it there. Don't ask them, because if you ask them, do you want it? They'll say no. So just say, I'll make this, I'll leave it there. Because what will happen is the sight of the food and the smell, so long as it smells nice, will work on them. And if they're hungry, they will eat it, right? And I had a chap who said he's not hungry. 4 courses later, where's the next one? Well, you're hungry. I'm not hungry. Yeah, you see? Same with water. Leave the water or whatever it is there next to them. Do you want this? No, fine. I'll leave that there. they're thirsty, they will have it. Because otherwise what could happen is, and carers often go in, they say, oh, he said he wasn't hungry. He ain't eaten for 2 days. So if you keep going into accepting this, you're going to starve him. Right, and the person's not going to eat. So I say, if you're not in doubt, just leave it there. It's better to throw the food away than they starve to death. Right, so just leave the food and the drink there, and let it, I say the sight and the smell will do the job. Right, so we've done perception. Number 8, people with dementia can still do what effectively? Live. Anybody get anything else? Communicate. It's actually communicate. Right. I've got 5 minutes. I'm going to rush through this. Communicate. It's communicate, because people, they can still communicate, but because to make life easier, speak slowly to them, or never cover your mouth, because they're quite often lip reading. Okay. Look them directly in the eye, because they're looking at you and your body for clues. Okay. Speak slowly, and quite often. Body language nice and open, and use aids. You know, if I say to you, do you want a cup of tea? You might think, well, what's the cup of tea? I don't know. Now our carers will, some clients, they've got a picture of a cup of tea, so they'll just hold it up. Do you want one of these? Yeah. Or do you want one of these? Want a cup of tea? No. Do you want one of these? Yeah, there you go. Simple instructions. So these are some tools and techniques. I'm going to be rash, so I'm going to give you the answers to the others, because number 9 was 1 in 14 people has dementia. Number 10 is it is possible to do what with dementia? I'll do this one because it's important. What do we get for that? Live well. Yeah. Number 11, there is what to the person living with dementia? More. Now this is important because there was a lady down the road in Mitcham, and she was 85, but she couldn't speak. They put her in a nursing home. She was fine, but she couldn't speak. But what she kept doing was this. And at first people laughed and they got really fed up, and they asked her to stop, and all she did was louder. One day the great niece came down, and the warden said, why does your aunt keep doing this? Because it's really upsetting the other residents, especially at night, because it goes through the whole building. And she said, I don't know. Then she thought, but during the war, Auntie worked in Bletchley Park. And he went, Bletchley Park? So he thought, someone's nodding there. So what do you think that might have been? Yeah. Code, yeah, that's right, Morse code. And he thought it must be Morse code. So he rang up the Mitcham Scouts, 23rd Mitcham. Scout said, can you send a scout down, please? Because scouts, we all taught how to do Morse code. And little Jimmy rocks up and said, hello, Mr. So-and-so, how are you? I've heard an awful lot about you. He said, I'm really pleased to meet you, all in Morse code. And the first thing she tapped back was, thank you. Because she'd had 4 years of being shouted at, shut up, be quiet, stop tapping. She couldn't talk. The only way she knew how to communicate was Morse code. Now the point of the story is there is more to the person, because that warden thought, you know what? This is maybe Morse code, and he was actually spot on. So do not look at the dementia. Look at the person. We've all got pasts, we've all got histories. Talk to people about, what you'll find is people will talk about the old times. People often say to me, you know, Mum and Dad can't have dementia because they can remember their childhood in ultimate detail. They can, but the reason that happens is because the memory, imagine your memory starts here and goes to the bottom. The most recent ones are here, and the oldest one. It starts with the most recent ones. So I probably will not be able to remember what I did yesterday, but dementia hasn't attacked the memories at the bottom yet. That's why people remember all their childhood memories and all their early life memories, which is why if you're talking to people, don't say to them, what did you do yesterday? Because you're going to, again, negatively reinforce the fact they can't remember. I'm going to feel pretty bad now because I feel pretty stupid. You're asking me something so simple I can't answer. What did you do when you were a kid? Oh, I can remember that, because that will suddenly bring them alive, right? Because those memories are all intact. So that's where we go. We go to the happy place, right? Because they then can navigate those memories. They now again feel in control. It's the good times. They can converse with you. So as I say, we always say, look at the photographs, talk about the past. That is what's going to help the people. Don't set them tasks, insist that I want to talk to you about what happened yesterday. Okay, so look at the person. We've all got past. Let's talk about what we did in the past. And finally, number 12 was about turning understanding into action. Right, so I have run out of time. So any questions?
Yes, I'd like to ask. You know what you said about something body, and then you got
Lewy body.
Delusions.
Yes,
and
Lewy body dementia.
yeah. How do you spell that?
Lewy is Lewy. Yes.
Sorry, Tony. You see, can I just ask you something? See, I've got on all of this and I'm still holding because I'm not feeling well.
Yeah.
So I didn't understand. I understand vascular dementia.
Yeah.
Alzheimer's, what causes it?
Well, no one knows all we know is that the brain gets coated in proteins. Why, they don't know yet. And obviously there's a lot of research going into that, and hopefully they'll get a solution in the not too distant future. Any other questions before I depart?
With this one here, action, what was the question?
Action, turning understanding into action. Sorry, I'll take that one more, last one.
Does COVID, having had COVID extensively, does that affect dementia?
COVID. The honest answer is I don't know, and I guess what can happen is the symptoms can get worse. Now, there are a lot of things that people with dementia have certain symptoms, right? Symptoms can get worse through stress. For example, if you remember the acronym PINCH, what can make the symptoms worse? It's not making the dementia worse, but it might make them appear to be something, or the dementia worse. Pain. If someone's in pain, we had a guy who kept saying, I want to go home, right? I want to go home. He was at home. But the carer knew there was something wrong, because that wandering or repetitive behaviour is usually a sign that something's wrong. They were emotionally distressed. In this guy's case, his dentures didn't fit. He kept saying, I want to go home. She said, I think it's his teeth. Took him to the dentist. It was cracked on the bridge. They fixed it, put it back in. He didn't want to go home anymore. He was fine. He was in pain. Right, so pain can cause symptoms, or your symptoms make symptoms worse. Lack of nutrition, being hungry. Infection, quite commonly UTIs. If someone gets a UTI, it can really send you over the edge, and it looks like the dementia is really bad. It isn't the dementia, it's the infection. Urinary tract infection for UTI. Constipation. If people haven't been to the toilet and they need to go to the loo, their symptoms can get worse. And you might think, oh my God, the dementia's got worse. It's not. They're constipated. Okay. So back to your question about COVID, possibly, because there are a number of things that affect the symptoms. But it's not that the dementia's got worse, it's the symptoms that got worse. Treat the problem and the person's behaviour will return back to normal. Right, I better stop there because I can see Susie look at me and go, get off! Right, so thank you for your time. Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant.
Oh, brilliant. I
So
hope
much.
you enjoyed it.
Well,
Thank you.
on behalf of all of us, thank you very much. It's just a little token.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.